Hello and welcome back to the Horse Racing Network with me, Izzy Phillips, and I'm joined as always by Paul Alster, racing broadcaster and journalist, and we're going to be taking a look ahead to this week's Newmarket July meeting. Paul, are you looking forward to this one? How are you feeling?
Well, as ever, I am. It is a good meeting that we have ahead of us, but we are going to have pretty quick ground, rather as we did at Royal Ascot, and that has to be taken into account on all the recommendations.
Yes, I was going to suggest that we had a little look at a weather watch because we are expecting some particularly hot weather, another kind of heat wave going on this week. So there'll be beautiful blue skies, I'm sure, over the Newmarket July course, which is just absolutely stunning. They usually turn the course out so beautifully. If you're looking for a little bit of shade, it'll be really nice to go and get under that pre-parade ring as well, where I don't know if you've been there, Paul, but the lovely kind of trees, and you can walk into the
Gorgeous.
centre of the pre-parade, and the horses are actually walking around the edge of you in the centre. So I just think it's the most beautiful course. I absolutely love spending time there. I'm really gutted I'm not going. But I think in conjunction with the blue sky, we'll be hopefully seeing a good week from the boys in blue because Charlie Appleby has one hell of a fantastic record at the Newmarket course, the Newmarket July course in particular. And he's also on a pretty good strike rate himself at the moment, generally, anyway. So there's been a bit of turning of the tide since Ascot. We're seeing a little bit of a dip in the form of the Gosdens, which was actually highlighted by one of our viewers in the comments on one of our videos, Paul. But with that, we've seen the rise of Appleby in the last couple of weeks. So I'm really, really looking forward to this one. We're going to kick things off with the Thursday, the Group 2 Princess of Wales' Stakes. It's run over 1 mile 4. The current market's quite an interesting one, a very small field, but what could turn out to be quite a tactical race. You've got the £2 million Ammo Racing purchase Ghostwriter at the top of the market. You've then got Palladium for the Gosdens, Wimbledon Hawkeye for James Owen and Sean D. Bowen. And then you've got the two Godolphin runners. You've got William Buick upon El Cordovas, and you've got James Doyle on Arabian Crown, both for Charlie Appleby. Really interesting here, Paul, that Wimbledon Hawkeye is getting a massive weight allowance in conjunction with the rest of the field. Who do you like the most?
Well, as far as Wimbledon Hawkeye goes, of course, he's getting the 3-year-old weight for age allowance. So he gets £12 from the others, which sounds a lot, but and probably is a lot, really. But I don't think he's been shown enough, really, in the last few outings to suggest that he's quite the level he was at as a juvenile. His fifth in the Guineas was not a bad first run of the season. Then he was third in the Dante, but that form has really worked out very poorly. And his latest fall to Amelot, not a bad effort, a first try over a mile and a half. And he probably does stay. So they'll probably ride him a little bit more positively, but I wouldn't be overly optimistic about Wimbledon Hawkeye, is he? You mentioned the two Godolphin runners. They're the two outsiders of the field at around 13-2 El Cordobas and Arabian Crown. And El Cordobas, he's got a little bit, I think, to find over on the overall balance of his form. Arabian Crown, Group 3 performer, seems to be about as good as we can get from him thus far. And the fact that William Buick has gone with El Cordobas suggests he's probably the slightly preferred of the two, but I'm not sure about either of them. And that takes us up towards the top of the market, where we find the favourite Ghostwriter. Now, as you said, 2 million quid Ammo paid for Ghostwriter. That seems a lot of money to me. He's going to have to win some proper races if he's going to go anywhere close to repaying that and potentially becoming a good stallion. But to be fair, he ran a good race at Ascot, first time over a mile and a half last time in the Hardwick, third to Rebel's Romance. And he was keeping on again in the closing stages, so they know pretty well that they've got a horse that is going to see out the trip. And he has a touch of class, as we know. He ran well in the Irish Champion Stakes last season, only beat 2 lengths. And of course, he was third in the Judd Monte as well, having finished third in the Eclipse. So a horse with plenty of ability. He's hoping, I think, to get this win at the Group 2 level. And he finished just over a length in front of Palladium, who's the only other one that we haven't mentioned. Now, You suggested that Jonathan Lady Gosden maybe not in quite the form they were at Royal Ascot, but to be fair, their Royal Ascot was an absolutely stellar week, and overall, they're still, going at the horses are running pretty much to form according to the Racing Post stats, which suggests that although they haven't had as many winners, that's more than likely the fact that it's because they've been running some of their lesser lights in between the big meetings. That's what I would suggest to the correspondent that said the Gostons have gone up the game for the time being or whatever. I think Palladium will run well. This is always with some very good form in Germany, and he's got Ryan Moore on board, which is always a big plus. But on balance, and although I'm not overly keen normally on going with favourites, I do think that in a race where there's question marks over them all, Ghostwriter is probably the safest option to make his first repayment on that £2 million price tag.
See, I quite like the look of El Cordovas for Charlie Appleby. I'm going to follow the informed trainer at the moment and going with his record at the Newmarket July meeting. I just really like the look of this one. I think that obviously he's won over the trip, so he's got that kind of proven distance. I think obviously William Buick has picked El Cordovas over Arabian Crown. Again, that's another positive for me. I just, like you say, I've got so many questions over so many of them, the favourite included, that's where I'm thinking, well, actually, this is a race for me where I probably will try and look for one at a slightly bigger price. I mean, because it's quite a small field and they've all got their chances and all got their question marks, you're not going to get a 30-1 outsider here, but certainly I think that they could be in with a reasonable shout. So El Cordovas for me, I personally can't be backing Ghostwriter. I just think he's massively underperformed his prize tag, and I don't really see a huge reason as to why I think he's going to take this. The one that I'm most interested in just seeing the run of is Wimbledon Hawkeye, because I just wonder what difference that weight allowance will actually make in the race. Like you say, he has got to find a lot. That's kind of partly why he's getting that weight allowance, but still very interesting. And like you say, when you mention £12, it does sound a lot, and actually it is quite a bit. And he's not, he's not a horrendous horse.
No, he's a fine horse. He's a fine horse,
James Owen's had some reasonable winners as well of late. So I'd be interested to see where he finishes just with that weight allowance.
I think just to say about the weight allowance, £12, as you say, is quite a lot of weight. But the difference in maturity from a 3-year-old to a 4-year-old is the reason why there is that differential. And for those people that aren't overly familiar with the sport, it's a kind of tried and tested measure that's the kind of amount that he will get in the conditions of this race. But as you say, James Owen has had a wonderful, wonderful time of things since he took out his license, having been a remarkably successful trainer of Arabian horses. He's proving to be every bit as good with the thoroughbreds, and you can't rule anything out, but I stick with Ghostwriter.
And then on Friday, Paul, we move on. It's the turn of the girls, and we actually have the Falmouth Stakes. And it's, I think, a very interesting field here. One in particular I'm looking forward to the redemption story of. It's like a Charlie Appleby fan show, this one. So top of the market, you've got Cinderella's Dream. You've got January in here. You did have Bedtime Story, but I can see she's been taken out now. So January, the choice of Ryan Moore and the remaining runner for Aidan O'Brien. You've got Crimson Advocate in here as well, who obviously beat Cinderella's Dream last time at Royal Ascot. You've got the old girl running Lion as a 5-year-old in here, El Malka, El Mateen at Sealer, and Lady Isle as well. I really want Cinderella's Dream to come back and bring the dream back, have that redemption story. I just feel that, again, it's that change in fortune. Appleby's horses weren't potentially running to their best during Royal Ascot. I don't say we can put a line through her run, but I'm not willing to discount her just because of one perhaps slightly lacklustre run. What I do find interesting here, Paul, is that clearly the rest of the betting public agree with me, because she's currently favourite over the horse that beat her last time, Crimson Advocate. So people must be getting onto this Charlie Appleby at Newmarket bandwagon. Why do you think that is?
Um, to be honest, I'm not sure. I mean, on the face of it, there's no obvious reason why um, Cinderella's Dream should reverse the form with Crimson Advocate. They both came from the back of the field when they were first and second in the Duke of Cambridge Stakes 3 weeks ago at Royal Ascot. I don't think there'll be very much between them. I really don't. Remember that Running Lion was fourth that day, held every chance, got the run of the race, but just wasn't good enough. So I can't see that one turning it around. I'm not sure, to be honest, about this. I think you've got to give January a big shout. The Aidan O'Brien factor, of course, and Ryan Moore, who at the moment, and it's worth checking out our website here at the Horse Racing Network, because yesterday I posted a piece really just looking at Ryan Moore and how he has taken his riding even to another level, even though it didn't appear possible to get any better than it was last year. He's just sensational at the moment. And his winning ride in the Eclipse on Delacroix, one that you highlighted, is it? Well done on that. On Saturday was, I think, one of the best rides we've seen for a long time. Now he's going to be on January, who was a very good third at Ascot in the Coronation Stakes. Again, a 3-year-old taking on older horses. She gets £9 under the conditions of the race, and she is one that I think is going to be a very big danger. Um, El Malka, remember, won last year's 1,000 guineas. On her day, she can be very classy, but the fast ground maybe not 100% ideal. I think the one of interest here is El Wateen for Saeed bin Saror and Jim Crowley. She just had one run last year and she won it as a 2-year-old. Then she was fourth in the 1,000 guineas on the first run this season behind Desert Flower. That was a cracking first effort. And she certainly didn't stay on soft ground 1.5 miles at Epsom last time in the Oaks. So you can rule out her last run. And on her previous fourth to Desert Flower, I think she has a big chance. So if I were to have a bet in the race, given the fact that I can't really see where they're coming from with one or two of the other runners at the head of the market, El Wateen might be the each-way value at around 16 to 1.
I think I'm probably going to stick with Cinderella's Dream here. I'm really looking forward to seeing that rematch between Cinderella's Dream and Crimson Advocate. And I do agree with you. I don't think there's going to be a massive difference between them. Potentially even a really nice forecast there to get up. But obviously January could absolutely come and spoil that, knowing the form of Aidan O'Brien. But I do think these two are likely to be the two that will take each other on. I can't see the likes of good old Running Lion coming back or El Melka. So I'm going to stick with Cinderella's Dream and hope that this time she can get the job done. I was so taken with her, back when she ran at Newmarket over the Browley Mile course, I will add. And I just thought she was so impressive, the way she won that race by 4.5 lengths. I can't forget that. That seems to be sort of imprinted into my memory. And that's what I'm going to go with when I'm backing in this race. So I'm going to stick with Cinderella's Dream. So that's 2 Appleby selections for me. We're moving into Saturday, and arguably here we're going to take a look at the race that is the jewel in the crown of the July meeting, and it is the July Cup. And we've had a notable entry, pardon the pun, with a notable speech, who they've paid £36,000 we've worked out to enter into this race. I think it has probably added quite a lot to the race in itself. It is a Group 1. It is a very exciting race here. We've got the likes of Flora of Bermuda that is now second favourite with that entry of notable speech. You've also got the likes of Ines Sherrin. You've still got Symbol of Honour in the race, who's now partnered by Oisin Murphy. You've got Ryan Moore on Whistle Jacket, Believing. They've booked, obviously, George Bowie's stable jockey, Billy Loughnan, to ride that one. Big Mojo, Spy Chief, Iberian, Jasor. There's still a few in here. A couple more could come out, but the field looks pretty much set. Is there one that takes your eyeball?
Well, I should start by saying this. I don't know what you think, Izzy, but at the moment, there isn't an outstanding British or Irish sprinter. We don't have any standout, real, top-notch sprinters at the moment. And I think that's one of the reasons why Godolphin has been persuaded to drop notable speech back to 6 furlongs. It has never run anything less than a mile. It's a pure and simple miler thus far, and a very good one. Remember, of course, it won last season's Sussex Stakes amongst a number of tremendous performances. And it ran well enough when fourth to Docklands at Ascot. But whether the fast ground was, 100% ideal that day or for whatever reason, I don't know, because it normally acts well on fast ground. But it's going to have quite a culture shock, isn't it? From the pace of a mile to the absolute blinding speed of 6 furlongs. And they'll be trying to get this horse off the bridle quickly. And so I think it just more than anything reflects the fact that they're prepared to roll the dice with it, because there's no really good sprinters around. Inisherin looked like he might become a really top-notch performer, with one at Royal Ascot last season, won the Duke of York this season, but then bombed out at Ascot. Flora of Bermuda has run well in both of those 2 races, seems the more consistent. Symbol of Honour doesn't really appear to be a Group 1 horse, despite just getting the nod in a Group 2 at Haydock last time out. And then you come to Aidan O'Brien's runner, Whistle Jacket. Well, he got a horrible run at Ascot. I don't know if you saw that, Izzy, but he just had no luck in running at all. When he eventually did get in the clear in the race won by a time for Sandals, the Commonwealth Cup, he really took off and finished fast. I wouldn't be at all surprised to see Whistle Jacket run a really big race here. And I think he'd have to be right at the top of my shortlist. Believing didn't run its race last time. Maybe the 5 furlongs on that occasion wasn't suitable, although in the past it's run well. I think you also have to bear in mind as well that there are 2 horses that have been supplemented for the race. Not just Notable Speech, but also for the same owners, Spy Chief. And Spy Chief ran very fast for a very long way in the Jersey Stakes before being reeled in by Noble Champion. They obviously think this horse is improving fast. And John Gosden and Thady Gosden are going to throw him in, we hope. And I could see him running well. But I think the each-way value in the race, where there's lots of ifs, buts and maybes, is Whistle Jacket.
Do you know, I do agree with you on Whistle Jacket. I think Whistle Jacket could run a really quite a special race here. Obviously needs a little bit of better luck than what happened at Royal Ascot. I think I'm with you on Notable Speech. I perhaps don't love that he's been dropped back in trip. That being said, I do like Symbol of Honour over this trip, and probably would have fancied Symbol of Honour. So I'm a little bit confused by kind of what they've done in this situation. And like you say, it's likely because it is a weaker field in that kind of sprinting world at the moment, and they're perhaps trying to capitalise on being able to bring a high class horse in that's perhaps versatile and can perhaps take this. So I'm not writing out the chances of Notable Speech. I'm just saying on paper I don't actually love them. I prefer a horse like Whistle Jacket, who I think is better at 6 furlongs, who I think could perhaps do a lot better here. But there is one horse in here, Paul, that I absolutely love at 6 furlongs, and that is Believing. And I do love Billy Loughnan as well. I don't know why. I've gone back through Believing's form so many times. I was really disappointed by the decision to run him over to run her over 5 furlongs at Royal Ascot. So I'm so pleased to see her over 6 furlongs. I'm very pleased to see Billy Loughnan on board. I think between Whistle Jacket and Believing, they're the 2 that I would really like here. They'll certainly be on my shortlist. I probably will split my money across the 2 of them. You can get around 7-8 to 1 on both of them at the moment. So that's where my money will be going, because they're proven over 6 furlongs, and I like them to go over that distance. Also, both of them have no concerns at all with a firm surface, and I think we've got to remember that we're currently recording this on Wednesday. By the time we get to Saturday, we'll be in full throngs of the heat wave, and that ground will be very dry. I think they'll be doing a lot to try and keep a semblance of moisture in there, and I think that they'll be doing well if they can, certainly. So those 2 for me. So I'm actually with you on that one. Well, maybe we can have it off with Whistle Jacket.
I think Whistle Jacket is the one. I think we're both looking at the same kind of thought process. So we'll see if great minds think alike, or whether we're both going down the wrong path.
Yeah, if we're going down together here. So
yeah, that's right.
There is great racing kind of across the board this weekend, Paul. I know we've covered 3 really good races here from the Newmarket July meeting, but is there any other racing that takes your eye?
Well, there's a lot of very good racing on Saturday, really, all points of the compass. But there's a cracking meeting up at York. It's the John Smiths meeting. It's where John Smiths send all their pubs with loads of coach loads out for a day at York. And there's normally a huge crowd in a day like Saturday and the good weather. There'll be 40,000 at least, I would have thought. At York, there'll be an amazing atmosphere. And the £200,000 John Smith's Cup is a really serious race. Now, we've seen some very good horses run in this race over the years, and I wouldn't be the least bit surprised to see some of the horses that are contesting this particular race, particularly those towards the head of the weights, going on to better things. Now, Cheveley Park have a horse that is very much fancy for this archivist. This one for William Haggis. It's the early favourite around 5-1. It's only having its second run in a handicap, and it won its first run in really good style. It could be a step or two ahead of the handicapper archivist for William Haggis and Adam Farrago, and it runs under a £5 penalty. There are a number of horses you can give a proper chance to. I'm not going to mention too many of them, but the one that I think does have a really good chance here is a northern horse called See That Storm. I'm hoping it's going to run. Obviously, we haven't had the final decks yet. For Edward Bethel and Callum Rodriguez, it won its first 4 handicaps, progressing up through the ranks, including good wins at Redcar and Pontefract. And then it was only beat the nose in the Zetland Gold Cup at Redcar in May, and then ran another good race here over the course and distance, which I think was a bit of a sighter for this race when it was second to Burrito here 4 weeks ago, and it runs off the same mark. It loves fast ground. This is its perfect trip. I think See That Storm at around 8 or 9-1 is going to run really big over at York in the John Smith's Cup Saturday at 3:10.
There's one here, Paul, that was in my horses to follow for the season. We've got Hand of God, and I'm very pleased to see that he's back to a 1 mile 2, because he ran over 1 mile 4 last time and it really didn't seem to suit. But I'll be keeping my eye on him, certainly. I think there's a horse, though, that I cannot get away from this weekend, so I'm going to take proceedings back to the Newmarket July meeting on Saturday, and I'll have all my eyes on the Bunbury Cup, where More Thunder is running. And it's kind of like harking back to how I felt about Cinderella's Dream. I need redemption. I need redemption on this horse, because he absolutely should have won at Ascot. He was flying. So that's where a lot of my attention will go on Saturday. Despite all these lovely group races, the Bunbury Cup handicap for me is one of the races I'm most excited to see. You've also got another horse in there that I tend to back quite a bit in Quirat. Hasn't currently got a jockey book yet, so not quite sure if he'll run, but More Thunder has Tom Marquand on board again, and I'm hoping that he's going to bring vengeance for that run at Ascot.
Well, I understand where you're coming from with More Thunder, because in another stride, he would probably have got up and won the Wokingham, wouldn't he? I mean, I'm glad he didn't for me, because Get It, trained by my pal George Baker, so that was a wonderful victory for George. But More Thunder certainly finished with the flourish. He just couldn't go the pace early. Get It was absolutely lightning, but he was on fumes at the last few strides. And this 7 furlong trip should be absolutely perfect, I think, for More Thunder. He has had a few tough races, but he keeps progressing all the time. I think £10 will go well for Harry Charlton. He's got a big shout. And Alto, who won the race last year, he's won a bit under the radar already. He hasn't run very well in his first few runs this season, but it might have been that now his handicap mark is a little bit better. You might see him run a little bit better. But the one I would put in here at a price as a horse, hopefully it'll run, called Billy Joe. And Billy Joe for Michael Appleby. You know, this is a horse that's got quite a lot of ability. He was second to Acadian Thunder, who ran really well at Royal Ascot last time. And then he just never got into the race, drawn on the wrong side in a group of 3 at Ascot at the Royal Meeting in the Buckingham Palace handicaps. You can ignore that. If he runs, I think Billy Joe will go very well indeed for Michael Appleby at a decent price.
Absolutely. So we've got a few horses from Newmarket and a selection as well from the John Smiths at York. Hopefully we found you a winner or two, but thanks so much for sticking with us till the end. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.